We are going to get started in just a couple minutes. We're just going to give everybody a chance to get in. We have a ton of people streaming into the webinar right now, so we're going to wait for those numbers to even out for a bit, and then we'll get started in just a couple minutes. But we're so excited to have all of our seniors and senior families with us tonight. I see some familiar names in here. It's so exciting to see so many of our seniors in here with us tonight. Lovely. As we're waiting for more participants to join, if you want to put in the chat box what school you're coming from, we'd love to know what schools are represented, if you can let us know. Who do we have with us? What school is getting represented? Oh, I love seeing Aliso on here. We got Capo, Dana, Aliso, San Clemente, San Juan. All right, Tesoro. I love it. All right, we got all of our schools represented. Oh my goodness gracious. Amazing. Thank you for that. Beautiful. All right. Well, Ms. Davila, I think our numbers are starting to even out, so
they're looking good.
We can get started whenever you're ready.
Okay, definitely. Welcome, everyone. Good evening. My name is Heidi Davila. Thank you for joining us today. I am super excited to be here along with my teammates. I'm going to translate really quickly in Spanish. Buenas noches a todos. Soy la señora Dávila. Bienvenidos a nuestro taller. Estoy muy entusiasmada de estar aquí con ustedes. Quiero informarles de que va a haber interpretación disponible. En la parte de abajo de la pantalla van a ver un globo, un círculo, y si seleccionan ese símbolo, van a poder estar en el cuarto donde van a poder oír la presentación en español. Así de que si quieren participar en la presentación y oírla en español, pueden seleccionar el símbolo que parece un globo y dice interpretación, seleccione el lenguaje en español y van a poder escuchar esta presentación en español. Okay. Well, thank you again for joining us. I didn't mention the scan code. Did we want? Yeah, thank you. So you will see a scan code available in our screen that you are looking at right now. If you can, please, with your phone, scan that code and answer a couple questions. We have a quick survey for you. We'd appreciate that you answer those questions. So we'll give you a couple moments to fill out the few questions that are part of that quick survey. We do appreciate it. So again, if you have a phone, just go ahead and scan the scan code and you'll be able to access the quick survey that we have available for you. We really appreciate you giving us some insight. And if for whatever reason you can't get the scan code to work, we do have the link available through the chat. So please feel free to just click the link and you can answer those questions as well directly from your device. Thank you again for doing this. We do appreciate learning more about who you are and having you respond to those questions. So if you're still working on it, that's totally okay. Continue to answer those questions and we're going to start moving on. So we'll go ahead and get started. A couple of housekeeping items. If you do see that little chain link icon, that means that there will be resources linked to that information. So please keep an eye out for that. There is also, you will have noticed that your camera and microphones are turned off, and that is just standard for our webinars. And if you do have any questions, please do utilize our Q&A feature at the bottom of the page, or just wherever your tool bar is located. Go ahead and send us any questions that you may have. We will gladly do our best to answer your questions. And we do ask, if you can, kindly wait till the end of the presentation, because we might address any questions that you might have throughout our presentation. And I just want to stress also that we will make this presentation available, as well as other webinars that we have hosted in the past, through our webinar locker, as well as our YouTube channel. So please, if you haven't visited those resources, I highly encourage you to take a look. Okay, and so this is our team, our Futureology team. We are college and career counselors who work at Capistrano Valley Unified, and we are credentialed school counselors. We collectively bring experience with college admissions counseling, college application reviews, and we are highly data-driven. So we look at information, our pre and post assessments, and we always try to make sure that we are providing the supports that we have identified through our data that our students can and our families can benefit from. And so some of the supports that we do have available are college and career counseling. We have one-on-one appointments. We also provide support with school-wide events. We are also providing workshops on campus to students. And we also do post our materials through our resource library directly from our website, as well as our webinar locker. So there is a wealth of information that's constantly available to all students and parents that are part of our district. And our services are free. So that's definitely the best part. So we want to just kind of take a quick poll and get a sense of, what are your concerns as you are thinking about this year? So you've made it to senior year. It is definitely a huge milestone. And so I do want to take the time to congratulate all of you. It is an exciting time for both students and parents. And before you know it, you're going to be walking that stage and getting that diploma, and with your whole future ahead of you. So as of now, though, in this moment, what are your concerns as you are thinking about this school year?
And you can go ahead and put your response right in the chat box.
Thank you. And some of you are already, so I'm seeing a college application process, paying for college, which is standard every year. Financial aid is always a huge question. Grades, fear of rejection, those college admissions exams, those can be very scary. So totally on board with that. Okay, and just college application process in general, it looks like. Essays, that's a big one, of course. All right. Oh, AP tests, yes. And yeah, so financial aid scholarships available. Thank you for your responses. Yes, those are all concerns that are very normal and very typical from our seniors at this point in the year, and they keep coming. So yes. So you're not alone if you have these concerns. And the best part is that we are here. Our Futureology team is here to support you and answer any questions that you may have. And throughout the presentation, you will see that we are going to address some of these concerns as well. But if you do still have a question, please remember at the end of the presentation, submit your question through the Q&A feature. Okay. The agenda for today, we will be presenting our CCA team. And so in just a bit, I'm going to hand it over to them so they can introduce the entire team. We're going to do a quick overview of the college system, as well as review application requirements. We will be talking a little bit about building a college list and what that process looks like, what it entails. We're going to discuss a little bit about the California Colleges Study DU account, also known as CCGI. And so a very important website that we definitely want our seniors to become familiar with. And we're going to touch on applications and timelines. We're going to give a testing update, talk about financial aid, letters of recommendation, essays, and just general resources and upcoming events. And of course, we're going to answer any questions you may have. So as you notice, we are going to touch on some of the items that you expressed that you are kind of concerned about at this point. Okay, so this is the CCA team. And so I'm going to actually hand this over to Autumn, who's going to introduce the entire team and tell us a little bit about what services and supports our CCA colleagues can provide our students and parents.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Heidi. So good evening, everybody. My name is Autumn McClanagan, and I'm your career guidance specialist for Aliso Nogales High School. And I'm here with my colleagues from each of the high schools in our district. We are partnering with Futureology, and we are here and available to support you as well for some other areas, including career technical education, career exploration. So as you're applying to schools, maybe you have an idea of the school you're interested in, but not sure what major or career path you're looking to do. We are here to help and support you with that. And we also do job preparation. So if you do need resumes for your college application, or you're looking to get into the world of work, we can help you with resumes and interviewing. We do also offer workshops and webinars about various topics, including resumes and preparing for summer jobs or career fairs. So there's lots of great opportunities, and we are in the same location with our Futureology counterparts. So if you have any questions about any of the career explorations or resumes or career technical education, we're here and happy to support you as well. And I would just like to take a brief moment for each of the guidance specialists to take a moment to introduce themselves, so you can be familiar with who's your contact on your campus. So let's see, I want to go ahead, Lynn.
Hi there, I'm Lynn Bell, and I am the career guidance specialist at San Juan Hills High School, and our college and career center is located in the library. So I encourage you to have your students come and see me. I'm happy to help them explore all their needs. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Stephanie Brazetto. I'm at San Clemente High School, and we are located attached to the library. So when you're facing the library, it's around the right side, facing the 100s.
Great, thank you. Summer.
Hi, my name is Summer Yim, and I am the career guidance specialist at Capistrano Valley High School, and the career center at our campus is in the back of the library.
Marisa.
Hi, my name is Marisa McDonald. I'm so happy to be a part of Tesoro High School. Please come and visit us. We're in the College and Career Center right next to the library. Thank you.
And Marissa.
Hi, I'm Marissa Davison. I'm at Dana Hills High School, and our College and Career Center is actually upstairs in the 500 wing. So you go down the hall and we're right on the left-hand side.
Great. Thank you so much to all of our career guidance specialists for being here to support Futureology and working together with Futureology to help and support you. Again, my name is Autumn McClanagan. I'm at Aliso Nogales High School, and our College and Career Center is located in room 500, just past the library. So thank you, Futureology, for allowing us to take a moment of the time and share our services, and we look forward to supporting you. Thank you so much.
And
Thank you so
I just
much.
wanted...
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry about that.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to pop in and let everyone know that we actually got to add an extra week till the deadline to get into the college at Capo classes. So they're going to be the Saddleback college courses held on our Capistrano Unified School District campuses. So Dana Hills has one. Every campus site has one. So if your student's interested in signing up for one of these, we do have till the end of the week. The QR code takes you to the interest form. But if you want to explore the website and look a little bit more into it, there's a link at the bottom as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marissa. Thank you, CCA team, for joining us tonight. Now I'm going to hand it over to Ms. Rengifo.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. So I'm super excited. You guys are all here, ready for senior year. So I'm going to dive into a little bit about the college systems and kind of an overview. So hopefully you're familiar, but if not, we'll answer hopefully all of your questions tonight. So in California alone, we're pretty lucky to have a ton of options for students. So we have the UC system, which you might be familiar with. We have 9 campuses across California. We're lucky to have one in our backyard. We have UCI right down the road. So maybe you visited, gone and checked out a basketball game, or just walked around campus because it's so pretty. But there are 9 campuses that sprawl through California, from San Diego all the way up to Northern California. The cool thing is they offer degrees for undergraduate, so bachelor's degrees, and then upwards for graduate, doctorate, law degrees. So variety, whatever your educational needs kind of end up being, they can help you with that. One of the big focuses for the UC system is to be focused heavily on research. So a lot of times we think of research in a lab or a scientist, but they emphasize research for all majors. So whether you're humanities or history major or something more traditional in a lab, you will still do some sort of research, even on your undergrad degree. So if that's something that sounds interesting to you and you want to participate and work with professors, the UCs are very well known for that. So that is a really neat opportunity that can take place during your undergraduate degree and beyond as well. Another system that we have in California would be the CSU, or the Cal State system. So within California, we have 23 Cal State campuses. Again, they spread across all of California, from San Diego all the way up to very north and Northern California. So there are some varieties of small campuses, medium, big campuses. There's schools in big cities like San Diego or San Francisco. There's more rural campuses, so very diverse, which is really nice. There are 3 designated polytechnic campuses, so well known for STEM and engineering and things like that. Humboldt State was just recently added, so now it is a polytechnic campus, just like Cal Poly SLO or Cal Poly Pomona. So one of the benefits for the Cal States is that they're designed to help students with local options. So each Cal State kind of serves a local region. So their original goal is to make sure students have access to a higher education, whatever that may be. And so there is a Cal State within reach for most students within a short distance. We're lucky we have Cal State Fullerton, we have Cal State San Marcos within a short drive, and then beyond we have ones that go all the way up to Northern California, like I mentioned. Majority of students that do attend Cal States are pursuing their bachelor's degree. So they produce most of the bachelor's degrees in California for students that end up graduating with their 4-year degree. They do also provide graduate options and beyond, but they are more known for providing the bachelor's degree. So it's a great option if you want to get a bachelor's in something and then enter the workforce. They're also well known for their applied skill focus, which really means getting you ready to work. You spend your 4 years working on your bachelor's degree in whatever field it is, and then afterwards, you are very qualified to start working and do a very great job at whatever career that might be an engineer or work in the health field. But their really focus is to help students gain those skills to be very knowledgeable and employable as soon as they graduate and do well in their career. The next system that we have in California would be the community college system. So in California, there's 116 campuses across the state. We have Saddleback locally, or Orange Coast, or IVC. So we're lucky we have a few great options locally, but in California, there's so many options. They all offer great programs. Each one is unique. They can be home to certificate programs. Some schools will have certificates for nursing or welding or game design, IT. So each campus is going to offer a variety of things. So our goal is to help students learn what options are available. Saddleback might have a program you love, or it might be at OCC. So we're really hoping students will find a program at that school that really fits their needs. Community colleges are also great for things like transferring. So if you go to a community college after high school and spend your 2 years working on your undergraduate courses, your general education, there are so many transfer options that the community colleges work with our local Cal States and UC to help students get there in a efficient and easier manner. So one program is called TAG. The community college systems have a guaranteed program that they work with the UCs that helps students transfer as a guaranteed admission. So it stands for transfer admission guarantee. So imagine if you go to Saddleback for 2 years and you follow the guidelines of which courses you need to take and you do well in your classes, you can potentially be guaranteed admissions to 6 of the UC campuses. So that is an awesome feature because there's no guarantee from high school to college, but from a community college, there are certain guarantee programs for transfers, which is so awesome. Another really awesome benefit of community college in general is saving on tuition. So the tuition in general is much cheaper. There are also programs that provide free tuition for students when they enter the community college system. We have a program that we work with the local community colleges called the Promise Program, where students can apply and head to Saddleback or OCC, whatnot, after high school and get up to 2 years of their tuition covered, and then maybe transfer or get a certificate. So really great options to save money because college is very expensive. And then the last bullet point I touched on, but transfer opportunities that maybe aren't guaranteed, but there are transfer programs that have more success rates with transfer percentages and things like that. So for the TAG program, you can transfer to all of the UCs except San Diego, Berkeley, and LA. So currently you can apply to Irvine or Santa Cruz or Santa Barbara, Davis as a TAG student, which this does not happen until you are in community college. So for your current seniors, this would be in 2 years, but it's good to know that they are available. All right, so a little bit more about different systems we have in California or out of state. In California and out of state, we offer tons of private universities as well as out-of-state options for students. So when they are navigating, making that college list, maybe a private school is something that they're more interested in, or heading on out of state, you know, moving to Texas or Florida or New York. So in California, there's hundreds of private schools and then thousands of colleges throughout the country that students can attend. The difference is each university that is private or out of state has their own admission system and their own requirements. So it's not one general system like the UCs, for example, but they offer a lot of great programs, maybe smaller classes or unique majors that we don't offer at universities in California. A lot of times private schools or out of state might offer more financial aid. They might have more merit-based financial aid, which is based on the student's GPA. And then again, every college that's private or out of state may have a different focus. So whether it's a STEM-based or humanities or a liberal arts college, they might have a unique focus that your student might find very interesting. And then the last system that we want to highlight would be trade or technical schools. So these are going to be schools that help students focus on a specific trade or career, for example. So maybe fashion design or welding or electrician. So when you go to these schools, you are learning your trade for a shorter amount of time. It could be 6 months, a year, whatnot. And you focus and you learn those skills to be employed once you graduate with your certificate, and you can work as a welder or you can get your nursing degree. So these kinds of schools are great options if somebody already knows what kind of field that they might want to enter and they want to focus on that right away. There are some specific examples listed here as FITM, which is a fashion institute. That one's pretty well known. Universal Technical Institute for auto, and New England Culinary Institute. So they are very specific for individual careers, but they're great if you know, I want to work in the culinary arts industry, and there are some examples of being trained in a shorter amount of time. So that way you can earn your certificate and start working in that career that you absolutely love. All right, so where do our students go after high school? So students in this district, they go a variety of places. So typically approximately 77% of our students go on to some form of higher education, whether that be going directly to a four-year university, such as a UC, Cal State, or private or out-of-state college. And then about 36% or so go on to community college. So a large chunk of our students do go on to some sort of higher education, which is awesome. And then about 23% of our students attend some sort of certificate or trade school vocational training, go straight to work, or enlist in the military. And then another side note that goes on top of that, about 25% of our students in this district are first-generation college students. So with that being said, we have extra support for students that are first generation to help make sure that they can navigate this process, because maybe their family didn't go to college, so they want that extra support. We are here in the career centers to help students navigate this process to make sure that they know what they need to do if their goal is to attend a university or beyond. So we're always here to help make sure everybody has access and knows what is possible for their future. All right, so next we're going to switch over to the application requirements. So we're going to go over the different systems and what they might require that students will start working on over the next few months when they start submitting their actual applications. All right, so for the Cal States and the UCs, they have created this requirement system. So you hopefully have heard the phrase A through G requirements. This is the Cal State and UC's minimum requirements for students to be eligible to apply to those universities. So again, it's minimum. So these A through G requirements are established by the universities to make sure students are prepared for when they do enter into the universities. So students will need 2 years minimum of history or social science. If you see next to it the arrow with 3 to 4 years, that means that is a recommended. So if you are applying to a school that maybe is more competitive or a more competitive major, the recommended is always a good idea, but the minimum is going to be listed here. English students need at least 4 years, which is also a graduation requirement. Students will need 3 years of math minimum, but it is definitely recommended for 4, especially if you are thinking of a major that's STEM related, science, physics, mechanical engineering, health, anything, or depending on where you're applying. Lab sciences, 2 years minimum, but 3 to 4 recommended, especially depending on your major. Language other than English, so a foreign language such as Spanish, 2 years minimum, again, 3 to 4 years recommended. Visual and performing arts, at least 1 year, but if you can do 2 or more, that would be great. And then the last one is a college prep elective, at least 1 year. That's a funny category. Basically, anything a student does above the minimum in the other categories can count as a college prep elective. So say you took a 3rd year of Spanish or a 3rd year of art, those could fill that last category. So again, these are the minimums listed in the black in the middle column. But in order to be more competitive, potentially for a major or a college that's a little bit more competitive, the recommended years are always something to follow as a guideline. All right, so now when you're thinking about which colleges you're going to apply to, there are certain things that they look for in their admissions review. So each college or system focuses on different things. So you're like, how do I know what the college is looking for when I'm applying to a few colleges? So this will hopefully help give you a little bit of clarity. So the column that shows holistic or comprehensive review, that really means that the college or university system focuses on the student more as a whole and not just numbers or qualitative things or quantitative things. So for example, they do look at your grades and potentially standardized testing scores if they do need them, but they also look at extracurriculars. So you'll include volunteer work, you'll include if you're in sports or ASB, or if you volunteer or anything you do outside of your traditional classes. They will also look at your personal statement / essay. So you will, let the application reader get to know you as a person in more detail that beyond what they can read on beyond a transcript. And then additionally, they may require a letter of recommendation. So that holistic review hopefully will give a good picture of who you are as a student. And so the colleges will be able to use all of those components as part of their admissions review. Some examples of schools that do use all of those factors would be the UCs or the University of California system, such as UCI, UC San Diego, and some private or out-of-state colleges. That might vary depending on campus, but when you are looking through the admissions requirements, if you're not sure, you can always reach out to your college and career counselor and we can help you determine that. But UCs for sure will look at all of those factors. And then on the other column, where it says academic or eligibility index, basically a college that uses this style of admissions review will look at more of the numbers. So your grades, what grade you got, did you get A's and B's? Was it honors and whatnot? If they require test scores, so did you take any ACTs or SATs? And then course rigor or sequence. Did you continue taking a 4th year of a subject when you didn't need to? Or did you take an AP versus the college prep version? So the Cal States or the CSU system, this is the style that they use. So they are not looking at a letter of rec or an essay. So they're traditionally looking at your transcript. And then some out-of-state schools will have the same type of review. And again, that varies. So if you have a list of out-of-state schools and you're not really sure, come see us and we can help make sure you understand what the school is actually requiring for their admissions. All right, and next I'm going to pass it on to my lovely colleague, Miss Nguyen.
Thanks, Mr. Njifo. Okay, so we are like plugging right along, right, everybody? I hope you're all doing good. You have some really good questions in the chat box. Quick question for you, and you can just give me, raise your hand, because I think you have permission to do this in the webinar. How many of you are considering applying to a UC or a Cal State? Let's see some hands in here. I have 20, 38, 40, 50, 54 hands. So about a third of you are thinking about applying to some Cal States and UCs. Okay, keep your hands up, or actually maybe lower them. How many of you are thinking about applying to a private school on the common application? We're talking Chapman, USC, out-of-state schools, Ivy Leagues, right? All of those schools, about the same amount. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. One more question for you. You can lower your hands. You're really good at following directions. The minute I say it, the hands are going down. How many of you are thinking about applying to a community college, Saddleback or IVC being the most popular in our district, Saddleback being the most popular? Who's thinking transfer pathway? Who's thinking free college for 2 years? I would be thinking about that for sure. All right. Okay. Beautiful. So thank you for giving me a sense of where everybody's applying. You can lower your hands. I just wanted to get a sense to make sure that this is applicable to you. But let's talk about the applications and the timelines and the deadlines, right? So as of today, August 30th, 2023, you have access to a couple applications, okay? So let's start with the UC application. For those of you interested in applying to the UCs, that application is officially open. It opened on August 1st. So anybody interested in applying can create your account and begin completing it now. The submission period, okay, that's the time frame where you can actually hit submit and submit your applications to the UCs, will be October 1st through November 30th. That's your window of submission. So right now you're just working on it. You can't submit it yet. So the submission window is actually the same for the UCs and the Cal States. And again, that's October 1st through November 30th. A lot of you will start asking, is it better if I submit my application earlier to the UCs or the Cal States? A lot of people ask that, like, should I get it in on October 1st? The answer is no. Take your time, work on those personal insight questions for the UC application, work on really crafting, your entire application and making sure it's perfect for you before you submit, because the UCs will not look at a single application until after that November 30th deadline, okay? So for those of you who are anxious about getting in your application as soon as possible, there's no need to do that. As long as you're submitting by the November 30th deadline, you're in good shape, okay? So again, UC application open now. You can submit October through November 30th. We link here to the application page. So we will send these slides to you after tonight, and you'll be able to click on all of these links and access everything that we're sharing with you. Okay, so no need to try to write things down, because you'll have all of this at your disposal by tomorrow. But you can apply using the link that we provided. Okay, and that's the UC application. The UC application does require that students complete a personal insight question. In fact, 4. Okay, you're going to have 8 prompts to choose from, and you will be choosing 4 personal insight questions to respond to. And Ms. Gatlin will be speaking more to that later on. So I'm going to leave that for her. Next up is the Cal State application. So about a third of you are thinking about applying to a Cal State. So that application is not open yet. So you cannot create an account. Don't do that right now, because you'll just be creating one for a last year, right? So wait until October 1st and then click on the link that we provide to you, and you'll be able to start your Cal State application beginning October 1st. And it's the same application or submission window as the UCs. It's going to be October 1st through November 30th is when you can submit your Cal State application. That application is really straightforward, no essays. They don't really even ask you about extracurriculars. They'll ask you how much time you spent on extracurriculars, but that's about it. So that application is really straightforward and will take you maybe about 30 minutes, 35 minutes to complete. And I'm going to show you a really cool tool that you can use to launch these applications, okay? So we have UC and Cal State applications, our 2 public university systems, both due November 30th, okay? And then we have private and out-of-state schools. So a lot of you are also thinking about applying to out-of-state or private schools, and those in all likelihood will be in the common application, okay? The common application, if you're not aware, is a kind of global universal application that over 1,000 universities and colleges use with throughout the United States, and even some international schools, okay? So this is probably the application you're going to use to apply to all of those other out-of-state or private schools that you're thinking about. Some schools have their own application, like University of Hawaii has a University of Hawaii application, right? So it's not on the Common App, it's not on the UC or Cal State app, it's its own app. So your job over the next few weeks or so is to figure out what applications you have to fill out, okay? But the Common App is open now. It opened up in August, and deadlines for your schools that are private and out of state will vary. So it's really important for you to finalize your list so that you know what your deadlines are for these schools, okay? But it will vary from school to school, okay? So keep that in mind. We link to that for you. And then finally, we have the community college application. And I really encourage all of you, as you're building your college list, and we'll talk about this more in a second, as you're building your college list, I really want you to consider your community college of choice as a likely school for you, okay? So as part of your big list of colleges, I encourage you to pick a community college and apply to that community college this fall as well, so that it's also on your list and that you will be able to go if you change your mind or if you decide you want to transfer, right? So Saddleback, IVC, Orange Coast College has a great program. We can help you explore because they're all very different in their own right. But these applications will open up in October, okay? Some maybe a little bit earlier, some maybe a little bit later, but October is generally when the Saddleback application and IVC application becomes available. So you'll be able to complete that application. Everybody gets accepted to community college. It's a free application, right? We love free. And it is going to be on a rolling admissions basis. So you can apply whenever, but again, I encourage you to apply as soon as possible. They have something called the Freshman Advantage Program, where if you apply early and get all of the necessary steps for enrollment done early, you get priority registration for classes in the fall. So we love that. The deadline for that is usually May 1st. And then of course, we want you to apply to have the Promise Program as an option. So raise of hands, actually, how many of you have heard of the California Promise Program at the community colleges? Who has heard of the Promise Program? So out of 150 something of you in here, we have about 40 of you in here who are familiar with that. Okay, so all of you should be familiar with the Promise Program. So I'm going to talk about it right now. You can lower your hands. The Promise Program is free college for first-time freshmen, essentially. So if you want to go to college and cost is a factor, the Promise Program is something that you need to seriously consider, okay? It was a piece of legislation that went through back in 2018 that basically allowed community colleges to use funding from the state to encourage students to attend community college. And all of the community colleges in the state have used that money to provide free tuition for first-time freshmen. So that's where that came from. So it's relatively new. But if you are a first-time freshman to college, which you all will be, even if you've taken college courses while you were in high school, you're still considered a first-time freshman. You can go to Saddleback, for example, for free. That is tuition paid for. That is a book stipend, a few $100s a semester to buy books. And there's no income cap. There's no income requirement. You just have to apply to Saddleback and complete a financial aid application. Doesn't matter what your household income is. If you do those two things, you will qualify for the Promise Program at Saddleback if you meet the Promise Program deadlines, which again is around May 1st. Okay, so that's something that you want to keep in mind, because free college is no joke. College is very expensive right now. And if you want to save money, if you want to go to med school, if you want to go to law school and you have a lot more school to pay for, it might be nice to save on college by being here, being local for 2 years and not paying anything and then transferring to the college of your choice, right? So keep that in mind. We link to the Saddleback application here on this page. And if you have questions about that, please reach out to your counselor, your futurology counselor, so that we can support you. And of course, you have a Saddleback counselor on your campus as well who can support you. That was a lot about your college apps and deadlines, right? So let's kind of put that away for now, right? We kind of know the general 4 applications you'll be dealing with. Let's talk about your transcript, because as you apply to these schools, you're going to be asked to input your grades. So all of you have access to Aries, and this is where I recommend you go to access your courses and your GPA so that you can input your GPA and your classes into your college applications. So when you log into Aries, you'll be wondering, what GPA do I input? Well, for the UC and Cal State apps, they're not going to ask you to put in your GPA. They're going to ask you to report your classes, and they will calculate a GPA for you. So don't worry about that. But if you're curious, that weighted 10 through 12 GPA right here, that's your UC or Cal State GPA, roughly, okay? Now, for those of you applying to the Common App, on the Common App, to private schools, out-of-state schools, it's going to ask you to list your weighted GPA. And this is what you're going to list right here, your weighted total GPA. Okay, so if you're wondering which GPA do I choose, I have so many GPAs. We're going to choose your weighted total GPA for the Common application. Okay, each of us have a Common App cheat sheet for your individual high schools. I have one at Aliso. My colleagues have one at their school. So if you have questions about the Common App, drop by the College and Career Center and we can provide you with the cheat sheet, which has a lot of frequently asked questions for students in our district as they're completing the Common App. Okay, moving on though. As you're filling out your applications and entering in your coursework, these are some important things that you'll want to note. When you look at Aries, you'll see all of your courses listed that you took throughout high school. You might be wondering what courses to input. For the UC and Cal State application, you will be inputting any course that has a P next to it. You see here CP, and these courses have a P next to it. That means college prep. That means A through G approved courses. So when you are inputting your courses on your UC and Cal State app, we want you to look specifically at any course that has a P next to it. You're going to list on your UC and Cal State app because it's an A through G approved course. So you can see here, track is not something you're going to be listing on your UC or Cal State app. Okay. Now for the Common application, go ahead and list everything. Just go wild. It's easy. You can list everything on your transcript. On the Common application, you'll list everything. Anything with a P next to it will be considered a college prep course, okay? That's what it will be categorized as on your Common application. Anything without a P will be considered a regular standard course. And you'll know what I mean when you open up your Common App and start entering in coursework, because it'll ask you to categorize your course. So something without a P on it, like track, will be considered regular standard, and anything with a P next to it will be considered college prep, okay? Just a little tidbit for you, but if you have questions, don't worry. That's what we're here for. That's what your counselors are here for. So come see us so that we can support you, but just wanted you to have this up front because it's a very commonly asked question. So let's move right along into college list building now that we've talked about the applications and the deadlines, okay? So how many of you, raise of hands, are finalized? You have a college list and you are ready to go. Like, I'm done. I know what colleges I'm applying to. I'm moving on to the next steps. Okay, so not like a rapid increase in numbers here. We have like 20 something of you, right? Okay, so that I'm going to assume then that the rest of us in here don't have a final college list yet. Having a college list, a final one, is probably step one in your college application planning process. A lot of you were anxious about that. So this is where we're going to start. We want you to have a final list before you do anything else, because you have to know what deadlines you're working with here. You have to know what essays you have to write, or whether or not you need letters of recommendation. And by the way, you do not need letters of recommendation for the UCs or the Cal States, okay? So don't worry about those. Letters of recommendation are going to be more for the private schools. And again, Mrs. Gatlin, I think, is going to speak to this. So I'm going to just shush about that for now, okay? So let's talk about college fit first, because as you're making a list, I want you to be really aware of these categories, because I think a lot of us choose colleges based on what family members tell us, on where our friends went, on the status and the reputation of the school, right? I'm sure if I were to ask all of you right now what schools are on your list, they would include UCLA, UC Irvine, maybe an Ivy League, right? Maybe USC. Those are really popular schools because they have a very recognizable name brand. But that is not what matters when it comes to college. Research has shown, and this is research coming out of Stanford, right, has shown that a student's level of happiness and a student's level of success after they graduate from college has zero to do with the reputation of the school. The name brand of the school will not lead to you being happier or more successful when you graduate from college. What matters when you graduate from college, a student's level of satisfaction and of happiness of their college experience, has everything to do with whether or not they're taking advantage of what is offered to them on campus. Did they get involved? Did they go to office hours? Did they, participate in clubs and attend school-wide events? Those are the things, or internships, right? Or research, like Ms. Ranjifa was talking about earlier. Those are the things that are going to drive your college experience and your success after college, is how involved are you getting and how much are you taking advantage of what the college is actually offering you, okay? So let's try to step away from that obsession with going to like a top tier school just because it's top tier. That doesn't mean that you're going to get a good job afterwards. It's not going to mean really anything for you based on the research, right? So social, financial, and academic fit are something you need to consider. Social fit is basically, am I going to be happy there? You're living at this place. Maybe if you're going to move for 4 years, you want to know that you want to feel like you belong on the campus. You want to feel like you're in an environment that's your people, right? That share the same values as you, a school that really does kind of speak to who you are as a person. And every school is so different. So this is the kind of research you should be doing. And that includes the size of the school, the location of the school, the weather, right? Some of you might think that you want to go to Syracuse University, but are you ready for blizzards? Are you ready for really cold winters? Are you ready for being across the country from your family? These are things that you have to think about. Are you into Greek life? Are you into sports? Do you want a school newspaper to be a part of? These are things that you can actually research. And the way that you do that will be on the school's website under campus life or student life. Every college has a tab called campus life or student life. And that's where you should be researching to see if they offer the things that you want. You should be looking at the dorms. You should be looking at all of that stuff to see if socially it's a good fit for you. Now, financial fit is the next category, and that's really important. Financial fit is, can we afford to go there? And if you haven't had this conversation with your family yet, you should have this conversation because it's a big one, right? Hey, fam, am I on the hook for college? Like, how much can you support me? What is a reasonable amount for me to expect to be supported with for college? These are things we want to know because that might dictate where you apply. Private schools cost a lot, and if you're an upper middle class family, it might be harder for you to get need-based aid, right? So we want to keep those things in mind because private college can cost $40,000, $50,000 a year. UCs and Cal States, if you're living on campus, can cost $35,000 a year easily, right? If you're living on campus. And so these are the things that we want to think about as you're researching financial fit and considering like a transfer pathway from a community college. One thing that you can do is use something called the net price calculator. You might be wondering, how can I research this? Every single university that participates in the federal loan program, right? And that's pretty much all the colleges you're applying to. They're legally required to have a net price calculator. So if you Google the name of your college and net price calculator, you'll be able to get an estimate of what it might cost your family by entering in information about your household size and income and some basic information about your individual situation. You'll get a very broad estimate of cost of attendance, okay? This is not like an actual offer of financial aid, but it can give your family some insight into how much it might cost for you to go to a specific school. So please use that tool to research financial fit. And then finally, we have academic fit. This is really important, and I have more slides on this after this, but academic fit is, will I learn well there? The type of learner I am, the kind of student that I am, based on the GPA that I have, am I going to succeed at this school? We want you to graduate, right? That's very important. The national graduation, 6-year graduation rate from universities in this country is about 59–60%. Not a ton of students are graduating in that time frame, right? And that falls to mostly actually financial fit, but also academic fit, right? So academic fit is, do they have the major that you're interested in, right? Do they have research and internship opportunities? What kind of academic supports are available on campus? And also, what are my chances of getting in, right? In addition to that, we have graduation rates, retention rates, right? How many students are graduating? Like I told you, the national Average for 6-year graduation rate across universities, 4-year universities in this country is about 60%. So if you're looking at a school with a graduation rate of like under 50%, you know, I start to wonder maybe what's going on with those schools and why students aren't staying. It's not that they're not good programs, but that's just maybe something for you to consider as you're looking at schools. Retention rate means how many students are coming back for sophomore year of college. And the national average is about 80% retention rate for most schools coming back for their second year. So if you're applying to a school, but the retention rate is like 40% or 50%, that's lower than the national average and maybe something to consider, okay? And all of these are just things that you have to consider together. There's no one factor that's going to be a make or break for you, right? You decide that. But, you know, these are all things that you want to consider as you're determining what is a good fit for you, because we want you to be happy there and to learn well there. But let's jump into academic fit on another level, a deeper level, okay? Let's talk about academic fit from a credential matching perspective. So this is a traffic light, red light, stop, yellow light, slow down, you know, and green light, go, we're good. So I want you to think of this analogy as we move on to talk about likely, targeted, and reach schools, okay? This traffic light analogy. So for those of you who don't have a list yet, and that's most of you in here, we want you to have a well-balanced list. And by well-balanced, we mean that we want you to have a list where you have a lot of schools where you have a very strong chance of getting into these schools, right? A list that makes sense for you individually as a student based on your credentials. That's very important. A lot of times students will apply to a list that's full of reach schools, right? Like 2 Ivy Leagues, UCLA, USC, Berkeley, and then they'll throw in UC Santa Barbara thinking it's like a target or a safety school. But that list that I just listed right there is a top heavy school. It's reach heavy, right? And we want you to avoid that. We want you to really think about what matters to you and choose schools that make sense for you socially, academically, and financially. So credential matching is when you match yourself to the average freshman getting into a university. And I'll show you a tool that you can use to do this. But this is when you're looking at your GPA, maybe your standardized test scores if you have them, and your overall profile and comparing it to the average student getting into your university of choice. A likely school, and I have an example student here, right? A likely school is where you are well above the average student from a numbers perspective. Let's say your GPA is much higher than the average GPA of a student getting in, and your test scores, if you have them, are much higher than the average test score of the student getting in. This is a sample school for a likely university. I have here a student with an 1100 SAT and a 3.5 GPA. This school's range is 800 to 1080 SAT and a 2.75 to a 3.3 GPA. So this student has a 3.5. They're well above the average student getting in. And what's most important when you're determining likely, target, and reach is the acceptance rate of the school. Because you could be a rock star, but if the acceptance rate of the school is low, it's going to be a reach for everybody. But in this case, for a lot of students, an acceptance rate of 70% or higher is a likely school for all of you. Okay, so that's green light, go. We're good. Do as many of those as you want. And then we hit this kind of yellow light. Okay, we're in this range where it's like it could happen, it couldn't happen. You're competitive and we have a fighting chance, right? Target schools should be the bulk of your list, right? And that's totally fine if the bulk of your list falls into this category. But that's where you kind of fall into the average range of students getting in, where you match the average student getting in. But again, like I said earlier, the most important factor in this list building process is the acceptance rate, because even if you have a 5.0 weighted GPA, but the acceptance rate of the school is lower, it's not going to be, you know, a target or a likely school for you. Generally, and these are very general numbers, if you want more specific numbers, come talk to one of your futurology counselors. But generally, schools with an acceptance rate of, I would say, 50 to 70% would be target for most students. Okay, this is 40 to 70, but to be conservative, I'm going to say 50 to 70. That's target range for a lot of us. Okay. And then finally, reach schools, as you can imagine, are schools where it's going to be harder to get in. And I will tell you this right now, no matter what your stats are, if the school's acceptance rate is under 40%, so if we're talking about schools with an acceptance rate of under 39%, it's going to be reachy for all of us. All right. So please keep that in mind and don't be discouraged by that, because the good news is that most universities in this country accept more than half of students who apply. So it's just that we're all obsessed with like 40 schools that are very highly selective, and that's all we know. So part of your job is to explore and branch out a little bit more. And that's what your counselors are here for. That's what your futurology counselor is here for. Okay. So some takeaways for you is that your final list should consist of 12 or less schools. All right. We don't want a list of 23 schools. That's too much. That means you haven't really done your research and you haven't really narrowed it down. You really want to have compelling reasons as to why you're applying to these schools. You want to, at Thanksgiving dinner, if somebody's asking you why you applied to X school, you can have valid reasons after exploring the student life page on their website and the academics and majors page on the website of the university as to why you're applying to that school. And 12 or less is a really good number. 10 or less is even better. Okay. For a final list. We want a few reach schools, mostly target schools and some likely schools, okay, for your final list. And we want to consider social, academic, and financial fit, not the name brand of this school. It's more than that, as we discussed earlier. Now, you might be wondering how you can research schools. All of you in here, I'm sure, have used Google before. You've used different platforms. Our district pays for californiacolleges.edu. We got some grant funding, so everybody has a paid account. And this platform links to Aries and will talk to your transcript. And the minute you create your account, it will pull in your transcript data from Aries, and it will help you research colleges on a national and state basis. I know it's called California Colleges, but you can research schools nationally as well. You can build a college list. You can search for careers. You can search majors. You can launch your Cal State application. It will import all of your classes into your Cal State application for you. You can launch your UC application from here. You can launch your financial aid application and your community college application from here as well. This is really important for all students to have grades 9 through 12. But especially as a senior, you should be creating a California Colleges account immediately after today. We'll send you the slides so that you can link to the resource here so that you can go ahead and create your California Colleges account and begin finalizing that college list so that you feel like you have some direction, and then you can move forward with the next steps in your application process. That was a lot of information. Thank you for sticking with me through that. I'm going to pass this off to Mrs. Gatlin to talk to you about testing updates.
Okay, hello. So real quick with some testing updates, let's go ahead and go to the next slide there. Anyone? Okay, I'm going to start with the testing updates. So for UCs and Cal States, as you know, or may have heard of, okay, they do not require SATs or ACTs. So as Ms. Nguyen was talking, thank you. Some of you were asking questions about the ACT and SAT for Cal States and UC. So remember, those no longer, they won't even look at those test scores for reasons for admissions purposes, okay? So out of state and some private schools that are in California, that's really gonna depend. So there is, and we have a link there called fairtest.org. It's a really helpful link that you can go to. You can look up the schools of interest, and that's where you can see if those colleges are requiring an SAT or ACT score, or if they're remaining test optional, okay? So optional versus test blind versus test required, if you're wondering what those mean. So optional, so students can choose to send test scores. That's what we were talking about earlier. So if you've taken an SAT or an ACT and you feel it's a pretty strong competitive score, then you have that option to do so, okay? That's test optional. Test blind, so schools are not considering test scores for admissions like I was talking about. So that would be your Cal States and your UCs. Test required, so there are a few select private and out-of-state schools that are still requiring an SAT or ACT score. So that's where you would still send those in. Okay, next slide. Awesome. Okay, so now we're going to dive in real quick with letters of recommendation. So depending on schools that you're applying to, and we're going to go back and start with Cal States and UCs, do not accept or require letters of recommendation. But why do other schools either require or have it optional that you send in letters of recommendation? So this is a real chance for the schools to get to know you on a personal level. This is a time where these letters of recommendation can reveal things about you as a person that are not on your transcripts, right? Or your application, it's something different. It's somebody speaking well about like personal opinions of your character. And it also shows that other people are willing to, speak on your behalf. That's also a big, a big deal that, you're going to be reaching out to those particular, whether it's counselors and teachers or coaches, etc. So schools requiring that, that's going to be your private out-of-state schools, but it's going to really vary per campus. So you're going to want to, for example, when you're in your Common App application, you will be able to see how many letters of rec are required. And then some you can add an extra letter if they do allow that. So it might be an example where Chapman might require 2 letters of recommendation, but you also have an option to send a third. So it's really going to vary depending on the schools that you're applying to. Also, all of them are going to have a little bit different deadlines. So please make note of that, especially when you're asking those teachers, counselors, etc. Okay, so go into a little bit more detail with letters of recommendation. So when you're requesting a counselor letter of recommendation, make sure that you're going on the website. Usually like your school's website will have that information of these are the steps needed to request a letter of recommendation from your counselor. And a lot of the times it will be a Google form or something that you do need to complete by a certain deadline. So again, make sure you're checking your school's website or just visit the guidance, the counseling offices, ask and make sure that you've got all those deadlines, okay? When you are requesting a letter of rec from a teacher, again, teachers are going to have all different, types of policies and deadlines, okay? So make sure that you are giving them plenty of time. So typically you're going to want to ask a teacher or counselor, give them 3 to 4 weeks in advance to write you that letter of recommendation, okay? It's really good to ask in person, also following up with an email. And a lot of the times, you're asking these teachers maybe that you've known for a while, you've had them in 10th grade, 11th grade. Obviously they're going to remember you, they know you, but they're not going to remember every single detail about you. So I would highly suggest sending in something like a resume, or maybe you call it like a senior brag sheet, listing activities, awards, projects maybe that they did in your class, you did in their classes that stood out, that you took on leadership roles and things like that. Those are really, really helpful for your teachers, and you're going to get the best letter of recommendations while giving them as much information as possible. Going into Common App, because again, that's where you're going to be selecting and requesting teachers, counselors, etc., to write those letters of recommendation. So we're going to talk about something called FERPA rights. We'll go to the next slide real quick. Okay, so this is a good visual of how it actually looks in your Common App application, okay? So first, you can see on the top, that second tab you're going to click on, it says My Colleges, okay? And then step number 2, you see where it says recommenders and FERPA, right? So FERPA is basically something where you are waiving your rights. So you're waiving your rights so that the schools, we can send information like letters of recommendation, transcripts, whatever the colleges need. So in order to do that, you do need to waive your rights. So that is called FERPA, and that is to protect you as a student as well. Okay, going into college essays. Okay, so I know we're kind of jumping around a little bit, so stay with me. For college essays, so a lot of you had some questions about this. So again, the Cal State app, no essays, no extra questions, so lucky there, okay. Common App, you do have 7 different prompts to choose from, okay. These are going to be more essay style. You have 650 words, and some schools also do have various supplemental essays, okay? So you'll have the Common App essay, but then you'll also need to double check when you're in that Common App application, whether or not that school is requesting a supplemental essay. that can be anywhere from a couple words to up to 1,000. So you really have to check each university, each college that you are applying to, okay? For UC applications, those are shorter. These are more kind of direct responses. There's 8 personal insight questions that you get to choose 4 out of the 8. And these are only 350 words. So you really have to choose your words directly, make sure you're answering those prompts directly. You don't have a lot of time to really set a scene or add in any kind of like fluff with words. You want to really get right to the point, answer those directly. Okay, so what are they looking for? So basically, college admissions representatives, they want to see, they already can see your transcript, they know your GPA, they know your test scores if you're sending those in. So they want to see something else about you, something where they can get to know you, like Ms. Nguyen was talking about before. Is it a fit? Are you a fit for their college or university? Okay, what can you offer? How do you approach different obstacles or problems that come along and solve those? Are you a likable student that will go well on their campus? Basically, also what can be shared that hasn't already been stated on the college application. Okay, I'm jumping around again. So finally, financial aid. So there's 2 different applications that you can choose. Okay, there's the financial aid called FAFSA. Okay, and then there's also California Dream Act. And we do have links and resources to see which one that you would qualify, which one you would fill out. You're only going to complete one of those. So this application, it is geared more towards parents and guardians because it's going to be all of the financial aid information. But it is good for you seniors to sit with parents and guardians, okay? To make sure you understand what information is being requested, because you will have to complete the FAFSA or the California Dream Act every year for college, okay? So this year, like it was mentioned before, it's opening up in December, but next year it could open up going back into October, and then you will have to do that every year that you're in college, okay? So this year, like I mentioned, so instead of October, it's going to be December, and they've extended that deadline to April 2nd. It used to be March 2nd, so you do have an extra month. The sooner the better, though, because the sooner you fill it out, the sooner you will get some type of response to get an estimated amount of what you will qualify for, or even like potential loans that you might qualify for if you don't meet that financial need. But we also are having a webinar called Financial Aid Fundamentals. That's going to be December 13th, 5:30. So definitely register for that. We will go through the financial aid applications in a lot more detail. Okay, so again, going with upcoming events and resources, I'm going to hand it over to Ms. Davila.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you, everyone. If you're still with us, I'm glad that you're still here. I hope that you have gained some very valuable information. And now for some upcoming events, we are having College Essays 101 webinar coming up in September on the 20th at 5:30. So please go ahead and register if you haven't done that already. We do have the scan code available on the screen if you want to register for that event. If you are considering applying to any UCs or any Common App schools that do require the personal essay, I highly encourage you to sit in on this webinar coming up in September, so that you can just have some additional pointers, and you can, if you've already drafted your essays, either go back and review with this new information that you'll gain at that point and revise if you need to. So highly encourage it. And then we do have our college fair coming up in October. We will have over 100 colleges participate in this event. And so again, you are in the college admission season right now. So this is one way to either reach out to whatever colleges you're considering who are participating and ask any last minute questions and determine whether you're going to keep them on your college list, or maybe you're going to add some new ones. So highly encourage you, October 2nd, 5:30 to 7:30 at Capel Valley High School. And then we are having a financial aid fundamentals webinar in December on the 13th at 5:30, where we will review financial aid. And in December, as we've mentioned throughout the webinar, we are the FAFSA will open up. So you will be right at the beginning of starting that application. So please join us, and we'll be happy to share as much information with you during those events. And then just a reminder, on campus, you will find a futurology counselor. We do offer one-on-one appointments. We are offering tutorial workshops where we continue to talk about specific topics regarding the college admission process. We do offer essay edit appointments as well to provide you feedback on whatever essays you've already written, or if you need help brainstorming anything. And we will also be hosting financial aid workshops. We do have a YouTube channel, so if you haven't checked that out, please check that out and subscribe. We have so much information available, so go ahead and take a look at that, and hopefully you'll find something very, very valuable. And then additional resources. So again, this slide will be shared out with all of you. And anytime you see that little chain link symbol, that means that there is a resource attached. And so there is a link associated to any scholarship searches that any questions, or if you need help finding scholarships, you will see some resources linked on there. We have the Common App and the UCPIQ essay information linked on here, as well as some resources to help you understand why fit matters. And of course, our californiacolleges.edu account, really, really important to our seniors right now as you're launching your Cal State, your California Community College, or your UC Common App, FAFSA, DREAM Act application, all of those awesome applications you will find through your CCGI account. So if you haven't created that account, make sure you get it done ASAP. At the end of this webinar, ideally, just get it done. And once again, thank you so much for joining us today. We know it's been a long day, and this is a lot of information to process. And so if you do have any questions, feel free to send them through email to our CUSD-Futureology@capitalUSD.org email. You can also share some through our Q&A. And meanwhile, as you're kind of processing everything, and if you do have questions, please send them through the chat. Through the Q&A section. And if you will do us the favor of scanning the QR code for a post-presentation survey, we would really, really appreciate it as well. So if you would please take a moment to scan the code that you see on the screen right now and answer the few questions that are included in the survey.
Thank you all so much for participating in tonight's webinar. It's like Ms. Davila said, you're all very busy, I'm sure. Parents are probably coming home from work and tired. So we're grateful that you're spending a Wednesday evening with us. We're going to hang back for Q&A. So if you don't have any questions, have a wonderful evening. Enjoy this really exciting season. We're so excited for all of you. It's going to be so great. And know that you have support at school and you are not alone, and you are going to be supported every step of the way by your counselors, by us, by your career guidance specialists. Okay. Let's go ahead and answer some Q&A questions. While you're answering, please respond to the exit survey, by the way. But while you're doing that, let's answer some questions. I've been wanting to answer the nursing questions because a lot of you have been asking about nursing and how it's so competitive, right? To apply to a Bachelor of Science in Nursing program. Yes, 100%. Nursing is so competitive. It's just crazy because we need nurses so badly, but it's so hard to get into a nursing program, right? To become a registered nurse. So what can you do, right? How can you get into a nursing program? So there are a couple things for you to consider, right? There's a difference between a direct entry nursing program and a pre-nursing program. So some of you might be aware of that already, okay? So for nursing, some schools offer something called direct entry, where if you apply to the nursing program and you get in, you are directly admitted into the nursing school and you are a nursing student. Right? You start your education immediately and you're working towards licensure and being prepared for the NCLEX, which is what you have to take at the end of your program. So that's great. That's what everybody wants because they want assurance that they're in a nursing program. And those are some of the most competitive programs, right? Cal State San Marcos, Cal State Fullerton, UC Irvine, San Diego State, really competitive nursing programs, UCLA, right? Some of these admit rates are lower than Ivy Leagues. They're abysmally low because they can only accept a handful of applicants every year. And those applicants that are getting in, just to let you know, their profiles are wild. They've had patient care experience. Some of these people are EMTs by the time they apply if they're 18 years old. They've been doing a lot in their community to express their interest and demonstrate their interest in working in healthcare. So it's really competitive. They're looking at your math and science GPA. And so if we don't have that, right, and not all of us do, that's okay. If we don't have that, we might want to consider pre-nursing programs. So pre-nursing is when you apply to a school as a pre-nursing major and you're not directly admitted. So this is not a guarantee of admission into the nursing program, but it is a pathway into the nursing program. And what you would do is apply as a pre-nursing student to some of these schools, like Cal State LA has, Cal State LA has direct entry nursing. I'm trying to think of a pre-nursing program. And if you email any of your futurology counselors, we can send you a spreadsheet of West Coast pre-nursing and direct entry nursing programs. But pre-nursing means we'll admit you. And as long as you take the prerequisite courses in your first year, and get decent grades, you can apply to be admitted into the nursing program after that. So it's like a pathway into it, but it's not a direct entry, right? It's not a guarantee, but it is the possibility of getting into a nursing program. So that's your second best option. And there are a lot of schools that are pre-nursing, right? That would allow you to get into a nursing program subsequently, as long as you take the prerequisite courses. So that's something to think about, is looking for schools that have pre-nursing as a major. Another option would be to transfer from a community college, right? And during that time in your community college tenure, while you're at Saddleback or IVC or wherever it is, you could then be gaining patient care experience by beginning to volunteer at a hospital, by getting a really good math and science GPA at the community college, maybe becoming an EMT, CCA, who we heard from earlier tonight. They offer an EMT course for graduates, for adults who have graduated, and it's completely free. So you could take that and become an EMT while you're in community college and get that patient care experience. Those are the things that will make you more competitive for nursing. And then you can transfer from a community college into a BSN programs, because a lot of the BSN programs out there do accept transfers from community colleges. UCI does, I believe. Cal State Fullerton does, I believe, as well. So that's another option for you into the BSN pathway, is to transfer from a community college. And you might want to also consider looking broadly outside of, the state. There are schools, a lot of nursing schools out of state, that might be a little bit more accepting. And it could still be kind of pretty affordable, depending on the schools that you're looking at. But at this point of the game, because you are seniors and you've already kind of completed high school, there's not much we can do about going back in time and adding stuff to your resume or your grades. So it's a matter of like, what are my options, right? So applying pre-nursing, and making sure that you want to be a nurse, right? A lot of schools will actually consider you for your alternate major, like Fullerton. They can't accept you, or UCI, if they can't accept you as a nursing major, they oftentimes will consider you for your alternate major. So know that you will oftentimes be considered for your alternate major if you don't get into the nursing program. So that's something that you can do as well. I could go on and on, but talk to your futurology counselor about it, because I know we have other questions right now. But hopefully that gives you a little bit clearer of an idea of applying for nursing programs. And then if you need more information, come visit the College and Career Center at your school so we can have a deeper conversation about your nursing school strategy. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to answer one more question for Michael about, I don't even know if Michael is still in here. I'm sorry if you're gone. But about target ranges. So when we talk about target ranges, we're talking about schools that have an acceptance rate, again, of about 50 to 70%. So that's general, right? Like if they have an acceptance rate of 50 to 70, for a lot of students, that's a target school. But of course, we want to look at the students' GPA and test scores if they have them, and make sure that they're also within range for the average student getting into the school. And again, you can find that on California colleges. Once you have an account, you can pull up individual colleges and see what student stats are and compare them to yourself, right? So for target schools, we really want to be within the average range of students getting in, or even above the average range. And the acceptance rate is in that kind of 50 to 70% acceptance window. All right. And if my colleagues want to jump in, if there's a question that you're just chomping at the bit to answer, then hop in and answer.
I can answer a couple.
Yeah.
Oh, it scrolled away. So I see one about class ranking. So our transcripts do not have class ranking, the decile ranking anymore. So if you do apply to a college that does ask for that, generally you can fill in the option that says none, because if your school does not rank, then there's nothing to put. If there's a unique situation where colleges literally require something, that is a counselor specific question, but generally you can just hit the drop down where it says none, because technically we don't rank anymore. So you would just put none. But if you have a unique situation, obviously come to the Career Center and we can help with that. But yeah, we don't have that anymore. So I'll answer one more. If anyone else wants to jump in, obviously cut me off. But with CSUs and UCs getting more competitive, they don't look at letters of rec or testing. What are they looking at other than the activities or GPA? So yes, well, they don't have quite as many things on their application. They are going to look at your course selection over your 4 years. Did you take classes that kind of relate to that specific major or a trend? If you're applying as like a science or STEM major, did you take advantage of those classes that they offered on your high school campus? Maybe at Dana, the HMO classes, if you're applying as a medical related major, or if you applied and have taken art classes. So course selection plays a huge factor. As well as course rigor. So did you take college prep and then honors and AP next year? Or did you continue to improve each year with your grades? Did you go from B's into A's? So those types of patterns are kind of what they're looking for. They also take into personal factors that are going to be used to the application. So personal background information, but typically course selection and course rigor are going to be a huge component of those applications.
So should you put your CASP test scores on your college apps? They're not going to ask for your CASP scores. So don't worry about putting in your state testing scores. They're gonna, when they're asking about testing, they're asking about SAT or ACT if they want to look at that, or AP tests, right? So those are the tests, or IB exams if you're at San Clemente or Capo Valley, but not your CASP score. So you don't have to submit those.
There was a question regarding having a 1520 on SAT. However, the university I want to go has an average, I'm assuming you meant SAT, GPA, 1540 to 1560. And is it advisable to retake it? So it really depends if this is like your dream school that you want to get into, right? And how many times have you previously taken the SAT? Okay, so on average, a retake, you could possibly increase, 40 points or so on average. So it really just depends as you as a test taker, and also if you're already a senior, are you already registered? Because you really don't want to take it past like December is like the last time you want to take it as a senior. So but yeah, I would say if that's like your absolute reach dream school, go ahead and you can definitely retake that SAT.
So Ethan had a really cool question. So would the start of senior year be too late to begin an art portfolio? So Ethan, if you're applying to an art program, right? And as I'm sure you already know, because you asked the question, if you're applying to a lot of art programs, they do ask for a portfolio. So it's up to you, right? I mean, if you want to start your portfolio now, go for it. If that's what you really want to do. If you already have artwork, then it's a matter of compiling your work, right, for your portfolio. Art programs are highly competitive. So these portfolios are no joke. I mean, they're looking for detailed, work and stuff that you've poured your time and heart into. So if you think you're just gonna, kind of like put together stuff just to have stuff, I would think about that twice, right? But if you already do have a collection of work, or, you just produce work rapidly and have a lot of stuff that you know that you can create, then by all means do it if you want to get into an art program. That's entirely up to you to decide if you have the bandwidth to do that. And sometimes art portfolios might even be due after the deadline for the college application itself. So you're going to need to look at the supplemental application requirements for the individual school that you're applying to, right? To see if you have a little bit more time to submit that art portfolio. But it will depend on the school, but ultimately it's up to you. If you think that you have the energy to do it and you feel like you can produce meaningful, good work, then do it.
Fabio, I like your question. I heard 9th grade grades don't matter, and we hear that a lot. And so I'm glad that you asked that. So they do matter. They do matter. Your Cal States and your UCs, that GPA calculation is coming from 10th and 11th grade. Okay, so that's how they're calculating GPA. But they are looking at your 9th grade history. They're looking at, have you been challenging yourself? What kind of student were you as a freshman? Okay, same as senior year. They want to make sure you're not getting senioritis and kind of just skating through, right? They want to make sure you're still challenging yourself, especially if you're trying to get into a major that's heavily impacted. So yes, 9th grade and 12th grade grades still do matter. That's a great question.
I'll kind of piggyback off of that question. Somebody asked, when's the GPA cutoff? So it depends where you're applying, but if you are applying to Cal States and UCs, they look at 10th and 11th grade GPA for their application admissions requirements. So 11th grade GPA would be the cutoff, but they still do see your course selection for 12th grade. So the courses do still matter for 12th grade. However, if you are applying to, say, private schools or out-of-state schools, they will look at your senior year grades. Very often they will request a mid-year transcript, which your counselor will send in January. So after finals of senior year, they will see those grades. So many out-of-state or private schools will still evaluate with senior year GPA factored in. So it really depends where you apply, but it's still important to do well anyways. But yeah, every system's a little different.
So
Go ahead.
sorry, so in terms of the question, is it okay to get FAFSA ID now? And so the application is opening up December. The opening of the application is a little later than usual, but December is when the application will be available. You may start creating your FSA ID now, and then start getting all of your documents ready that you're going to need for the application, which will open up in December.
Okay, we have some questions in the chat box. We're gonna try not to ignore those. So does it make sense to apply to a college that is above target range, a dream school, or one that is difficult to get into? It only makes sense to apply to a dream school that is like reachy, right? Like, let's say that their admission rate is 20%, right? It only makes sense if that school meets all of your fit factors. Socially, does it actually make sense for you? Did you research what it means to be a student there and to live there and to be a part of that community? Financially, does it make sense for your family? And could you afford to go there if you got in? Academically, are you going to learn what you want to learn there? And is it the learning environment that makes most sense for you based on the size of the classroom, graduation rate, retention rates, all of that stuff, right? So it's not just about applying to a dream school because you've dreamt about it your whole life. I would challenge you to give me compelling reasons or a counselor compelling reasons as to why you actually want to apply. So that involves some soul searching, right? Is why do I actually want to go to Harvard? Other than the fact that it's Harvard, that's not a good enough reason for me as a counselor. It's just because it's Harvard, right? As an example. So I would challenge you to think deeply and to do your research and to have these compelling reasons. And if at the end of the day, you do that research and you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, Harvard has all the things that I want. They have this amazing, honor society and these organizations that I want to be a part of, then yes, apply. We would never tell you not to apply to a school. If it's your dream school and it matches everything you want, then apply, right? Worst case is you don't get in, and that's okay, because that's why you have target and likely schools. And if you really want to go, then consider transferring. I met a student at IVC on a tour 2 years ago who was on her way to Yale. Right? So if you have a dream school and you want to work for it, you can find a way there. There is a pathway for everybody, right? It just might look differently depending on the student. So that's my question, or my answer to that question. And hopefully that helps you. What else do we have? Oh, we got a lot. Okay, we did that. Yes, links, Stephanie, links will be emailed to you. We're going to send. You didn't register via Zoom. Oh, okay. So Stephanie, can you put your email in the chat box for us if you're still in here? Go ahead and put your email in the chat. You can just send your chat directly to hosts, and that way nobody else will see your chat, and we can email it to you, but we just need to have that. So shouldn't you apply to a lot of reach schools so you have a higher chance of getting into one of them? So that's not the way it maths out, unfortunately, Alex. I really wish it was. And I think that's what a lot of students do, is they apply to like 10 reach schools, hoping that they'll get into one. But at the end of the day, these reach schools are reach because they're highly competitive and they're looking for, a certain kind of student that has, you know, really, really high academic rigor in their coursework. They're looking for leaders in their community. They're looking for people who have really kind of done something outside, above and beyond school. And I'm going to go back to what I said earlier to the other student who asked about this. If there are like 5 reach schools that you desperately want to go to that really make sense for you for real, right? That you've done the research on, that you really understand on a deep level, and you want to apply to them. Right. It doesn't hurt to apply. It hurts financially because you have to pay for the application fee, and that's going to cost a lot. Right. But it doesn't hurt to apply. And if you want to do that, then that's your personal decision, and you should. Okay. Nobody will tell you not to do it. Will it increase your chances of getting in? No, I don't think statistically that maths out. Right. But I do think that you have to honor what you want to do. I think that's very important. And if you have 10 reach schools that you genuinely just love and want to apply to because they really meet social, academic, and financial needs, then go ahead and apply, right? That's totally fine.
I want to answer one. I'll jump in, B. So any questions regarding if you received a D or an F in a class and making sure you're eligible for A through G requirements when applying for college? I would recommend coming in and seeing your counselor so we can help develop a plan to make sure if you need to remediate or retake something, because yes, a D does not count for your A through G eligibility. So, but there are some situations where we can kind of go into more detail. Certain classes like math, depending if you pass a higher level, can change that. But typically a D is not going to be used for A through G eligibility. So I would recommend stopping into your career center in the next few days so you can chat with your counselor, and we can make a plan if you do need to retake anything or whatnot to see what's going on.
And we probably have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions so that we can honor everybody's time, because it is 7 o'clock. So let's answer the remaining questions that we have, and then we'll go ahead and close up the webinar. There is one more in the chat. Which test is the one that you get to decide which scores to send to colleges? I think for one of them automatically sends all scores. So no, so you decide when you register for the SAT or ACT whether you want scores sent to schools or not. And they allow you, like the SAT will give you like a number of free reports that you can automatically send your scores to. But if you want to be conservative and you don't want schools to know your scores, then just elect not to send any of your scores to any of the schools when you register. No SAT or the SAT or the ACT will not automatically send your scores to schools unless they get your permission to do so. So if you want to be safe, just don't add any schools to that initial list when you're registering for the SAT or ACT.
And Tiffany, for test optional schools, if they're highly competitive, do you recommend taking the test if you haven't already? Yeah, I mean, if you are going to be like, you think you're a good test taker and you want to have that extra test score in your pocket, then I would say yes. It's not going to hurt you. It's only going to help you. Okay. So if you do well on the score and you want to submit it, great. It's not going to hurt you. So I do encourage students, if they are thinking of taking it, it doesn't hurt to take it.
Okay, last question of the night, and it's coming from Summer. I feel like a radio host that's like taking, questions from callers. It's like, all right, Summer from Elisa Viejo. I received a letter regarding consideration for ELC from my school. What does this mean exactly? So great question. So if you got a letter regarding ELC, it means that you are in the top 15% of your class, probably, because that's what the UCs will do. They'll like identify the top 15% of students and basically tell them that they are possibly in the running for becoming eligible within the local context, which means that you would be in the top 9% of your class upon the time of applying to the UCs. It's weird math. You don't have to worry about it really. ELC, if you're an ELC student, if you're considered eligible within the local context, you are guaranteed admission into UC Merced. If you don't get into any of your campuses of choice, if you're ELC, they will forward your application to Merced and you will be guaranteed a spot there, which is great, right? Like that's wonderful. But getting the letter does not mean that you are ELC. It just means that you might be, and they're encouraging you to apply, right? So you're going to want to give your school permission to release whatever information they need to release to the UCs to do that. But after you apply to the UCs, you can actually log back into your account and find out if you are indeed ELC. That will show up in your application after the fact, after you submit. Okay, would submitting the SAT scores negatively affect a student somehow? No. Schools that are test optional, for example, especially test optional, if the scores can only help you, not hurt you, that's exactly what Mrs. Gatlin said, right? And so they're looking for reasons to admit you. So a bad score is not going to, be the be all end all for you. And of course, you can select to submit an SAT score or not, right? So let's say that you have an SAT score that's below average for that school. You don't have to submit that score. That's totally fine. That's your choice, right? But even if you did choose to submit it, it's not going to ruin your chances. It just won't help them if it's below average. Okay, we're going to go to our last question. We can't take any more. Stephanie, thank you so much for being with us this whole time. Finally, from Hi Finley. I don't know. Yeah, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. Go to the community college and transfer versus going to easy college. Which path would you recommend? It's a very personal decision, right? There are multiple reasons for going both routes. Easy college, I mean, don't go to a college just because it's easy to get into, right? We go back to fit factors. We go to a college because we want to go there, because we want to learn what they have to teach us there, because socially, environmentally, it's the place we want to be and we would be happy to be there. So if that easy college doesn't meet all of your social, financial, academic factors, then it's not worth going to in my mind, right? You have to weigh out a lot of things, like going to community college, you save a lot of money, but you miss out on those first 2 years of college and relationship building with people on campus. So it really comes down to what makes the most sense for you as a student. And really, if that easy college, right, matches everything else you want in a school, because you shouldn't just go to a college just because it was easy to get into, just because it's a 4-year. That doesn't matter. It matters that, you're going to actually be happy there and take advantage of what they have to offer you. Okay. But we can have more of a conversation of that individually with your futurology counselor or your school counselor if you want to dive into that a little bit more. All right, my friends. Fabio, thank you so much for joining us. With that, we are going to conclude tonight's webinar. We still have so many of you in here, but thank you for sticking with us until the bitter end. We're so excited for all of you. This is going to be a great year. We're here to support you. Have a wonderful evening. Good luck on everything. And we'll see you at the next webinar. Good night, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thank
you.
Night.